Assalamualaikum and hi. Today I would like to talk about the fundamental of ionizing radiation. Okay, first of all, what is radiation itself? Radiation is either the transmission or the emission of energy through space and matter. It's either charged or uncharged, or either electromagnetism radiation. Okay, basically there are two types of radiation, which is ionizing radiation and non-ionizing radiation. Both of these depend on the interaction of the radiation itself upon matter. Okay, for the atomic structure of an atom, where according to Neil Bohr model, which tell that nucleus is the massive central charge comprised of the no charge neutron and a positive charge neutron, whereas like we can see negative charge electron orbiting the outer space known as shell. Okay, next, this picture indicates the notation of atomic number Z, mass number A, and the element of the isotope itself, X, where X is the chemical symbol of the element. A is the mass number, which is number of proton plus number of neutron, while Z is the atomic number of proton. Atom with the same number but with different mass number was called isotopes, since isotopes are also in the same element. Okay, referring to this next image, in radioactivity, stable and unstable nuclei can be seen at this stability curve. If an element has a correct balance of number of neutron and proton, thus it will be stable and located at the black line. But if it was unbalanced, the element considered unstable and eventually rearranged itself through transformation or spontaneous decay and emission of radiation. From this chart also, we can see that for unstable nuclei, it will transform or decay spontaneously into nuclei of other element and thus emitting radiation. This made the nuclei to be called radiative decay and also called radionuclide or radioisotope for the same element. While the activity is measured by the number of nuclear transformation per second and called becquerel. This should be easy. What is half-life? Half-life is the time for the nuclei in the sample to decay to half of its original value, whereas in the next image, activity A or transformation rate of radionuclide is proportional to the number of unstable nuclei and an exponent function of time. Alright, we know that ionization is the process where an electron, either one or more, being removed or ejected from the orbital, making the atom no longer neutral yet positively charged. Thus, this is so-called ionizing radiation is named by which those form of radiation that are able to cause ionization. Yet to be remembered, it may sound dangerous as it could destroy biological cells, but it is also applicable in medical such treating cancer. Next image, we can see that there are three types of ionizing radiation, which is alpha, beta and gamma. As we can see, alpha particle is a helium nucleus, 2 proton and 2 neutron, usually emitted by naturally occurring radionuclide, as for example uranium and thorium, while beta particle are high-speed electron emitted by radionuclide that can be either be positron or electron. Unlike alpha, with discrete energy emission, beta show a continuous energy spectrum, and for the gamma ray or X-ray, both are electromagnetic wave or photons. When gamma interact with matter, the ionization produced is almost all secondary. In this image, we could also see the behavior and the penetrating power of these ionizing radiations. Gamma ray could interact with matter and produce photoelectric effect, Compton scattering and pair production. For photoelectric effect, it is an interaction between photon and a particle-particle collision with an atomic electron, and the photon transfer all of its energy to the electron. If the energy was enough, the electron was kicked out of its orbital and the atom ionized. For Compton effect, it is a photon collide with an atomic electron and transfer only part of energy to electron. The rest of the original photon energy is scattered as lower energy photon. Pair production photon disappear in the nuclear field, changing all of its energy into matter in form of positrons and electrons. Now for quantity and radiation unit. Absorbed dose, amount of energy imparted to matter by ionizing radiation per unit mass of irradiated material at the place of interest. The unit of absorbed dose is Gray, while equivalent dose H is absorbed dose times radiation weighting factor WR, and the unit is sieverts. And the last is effective dose, which is equivalent dose H times the tissue weighting factor. The unit is also sieverts. For the radiation sources, there are two main sources of radiation, which is natural sources and man-made radiation sources. For natural radiation sources, we can categorize into two, which is cosmic radiation sources and terrestrial radiation, whereas man-made sources are from medicines, radioactive fallouts, occupational exposure, and others. That's all from me, Muhammad Firdaus, and we continue to the next video from Africa. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum and hi guys. So today I would like to share to all of you about biological effects of ionizing radiation. Radiation is not bad, but what makes them become poisonous are the dose. For example, you have the same dose is delivered in extended period of time. The effect will not be severe as the same dose was delivered all at once.
There are a few kinds of radiation. Some is light or heat, but the kind that damages tissue is called ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation comes in high-energy waves like X-rays and gamma rays, or from nuclear material via particle decay. This kind of radiation can damage atoms, which can affect whole molecules like DNA, and that can affect your cells, organs, and eventually your whole body. For example, your cells are comprised of water, H2O, which, if broken apart by radiation, can reform as O2 or H2 or H2O2, hydrogen peroxide.
So how does radiation damage living tissue? Ionizing radiation can break bonds in molecules, any molecule. Inside the cell, it does the same thing. And as with other toxins, our genetic material, DNA, is the primary target. And radiation can damage DNA directly by interacting with the molecule or indirectly. And that means we have plenty of water molecules in our cells. So radiation will interact with water, break down our water molecules, produce free radicals, and then free radicals will damage our DNA. That's an indirect method. But that's how ionizing radiation can damage our cells. So what happens once a cell is irradiated and it's damaged, the DNA is damaged? Well, it can repair itself faithfully to how it was before the damage, so the cell is repaired and there's normal function, and the cell would go on. Another thing that can happen is that it could misrepair, repair it incorrectly, so the cell becomes an altered cell, and then that cell has potential eventually to perhaps turn into cancerous cell. There's that potential. Alternatively, after the cell is damaged, the cell can die, so cell death is the outcome. And actually that's not a bad thing, because if only a few cells die, then the function of that tissue is not impaired, and we don't have a potential for a misrepair cell to later on cause.
Theoretically, ionizing radiation has no safe dosage. When you get a dose of radiation, specialists use sieverts to calculate how much they used, and gray for the actual absorption of radiation into tissue. A dental or stomach x-ray might be like 8 milligrays, which isn't that many, or 8 millisieverts. Repeated low-level exposure, like in tanning or working near nuclear material, can cause cancer. But when lots of ionizing radiation hits you at once, which is what we're going to talk about, it causes acute radiation poisoning, which is serious, and it comes in 4 phases. First is prodromal. This is vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, anorexia, and more radiation makes this worse. It can hit you within a few minutes or days after an exposure. Second, you'd actually feel better. This is called the latent phase. You'd get over these flu-like symptoms, but you didn't actually get over them. If you'd had lab tests, they would show that you'd been poisoned by radiation. Then maybe weeks after that, bam, the manifest illness phase hits. That's when a bunch of bad stuff happens that we'll get into. And then 4 is recovery or death. If it's a low dosage, you can probably recover, though you may have a higher risk of cancer. However, above a certain point, the poop emoji hits the fan. Say someone was exposed to the equivalent of 125 abdomen x-rays all at once. Then they'd hit the lowest level of radiation poisoning. From 1 to 10 gray, the radiation penetrates tissue and kills bone marrow cells by day. At more than 10 gray, at least 1,250 x-rays at once, cells in the gastrointestinal tract are killed, meaning the body can no longer absorb nutrients. causing electrolyte imbalances, dehydration, and worse. Once the GI tract shuts down, nothing can be done. Death is certain. Over 20 gray, 2,500 X-rays at once.